right, back in the field with the Track Stars, Ryan Righteous, Sean Tanner, DJ Jeremiah. Make sure you go to trackstars.com for all the latest. We got a lot of cool stuff coming on the way. I saw some people in the comments asking what was the name of that piece. It's called Twisted. So that whole piece is like 25 minutes long. So there's a Twisted 1 and Twisted 2, and some of the videos are just the whole thing. So go check that out. And just remember my boy, Kenny Aishi Yashuda. He was special, man. All right.
Keep his family in your prayers, too. I was just going to say, please.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on again. We're politics free today. We're going to talk about relationships now. So my wife has been pushing me to do this topic because she says this is going crazy on the internet and we're just ignoring it. But I can't find anybody that watches this show. So I was nervous that y'all wouldn't really connect with it. But I think I have a way for y'all to connect with this because this is really interesting, and we need to provide answers to people because this is a big problem in the church, and we just need answers. All right, so Married at First Sight. I assume none of y'all watch it. Jermaine, you watch that show, Married at First Sight?
Nah, I heard of it though.
Okay, so we're not talking about Married at First Sight. We've done that before, but what we're talking about is on this season of Married at First Sight, there's a guy named Chris. And he is a self-proclaimed Christian, but he is very problematic. It's hard to describe how problematic he is, but he is basically one of the worst people who's ever been on the show. But he's the Christian dude. He's a Christian dude. So I want to give you a little taste of what I mean. And the reason for this is there are a lot of women who encounter guys like this in the church. Why are there guys like this in the church? And how do you, for young ladies that are out there and they're looking, they want somebody that's a man of God. How do you watch out for guys like this? All right, so let me let y'all see what I'm talking about, and then we'll come back.
I had a family full of preachers that I come from, and I was ordained minister at one point, but I wasn't making any money. And I felt like that wasn't necessarily the direction that God wanted for me.
I really do hope that she is the woman that I prayed for. But I'm afraid that she could possibly be unattractive. I have to have that initial attraction. That's important for me.
This is it.
So, to be perfectly honest with you, I think that on paper, we are, you're everything that I need. But, I don't think that the attraction is fully there yet for me, to be perfectly honest.
I feel like if he had that conversation with me last night, before we even touched, kissed, whatever, I would have been at peace with that. But we became intimate last night and this morning.
All right, so that is that is Chris from Married at First Sight. I think it's season 12.
Not me.
Our Chris.
I'm writing down notes right here. Writing down notes.
So there's a lot of chatter online about him and how I remember Kev on Stage and Mrs. Kev on Stage. They have a show after show where they talk about each episode and she was saying he's like the church drummer, if you know what I mean, like that guy, the guy who's like he's in church, but So
stop laughing.
So what do you guys think about him, and what do you guys think about that type of guy in the church, and how do you look out for that?
Okay.
The church runs rampant with men like that. I mean, it just does, because they know that they can find women there that they can take advantage of. And so even while we were watching this whole preview and everything, I was like, God, we need a top 5 ways to tell if your dude is like a legit Christian or not. Because I mean, it's all too common. I've seen it, I've lived it, and all of the above. So just, it just breaks my heart. But I think I will say this, oftentimes for women, we're very quick to go for the guy that says all the right things without seeing any fruit. That's really key, and as my husband would say, you're looking for somebody that's a Christian and it's the icing on the cake when really it needs to be the cake. Bottom line.
What you think, Jeremiah?
I would say it's a lot, man. It was a lot in that thing. The funny part about it is that in my mind, I was like, and maybe because I've been married so long, not so long, but been out the whole single thing, it's just like, this still exists. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've seen it. I've seen this guy all through the 2000s and the 2010s. And I'm like, this still exists. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think the sad part I've always said was, the sad part was, you're so enamored. And I think it goes back to, at times, some women so enamored with the whole flashy look, even though he may be, you know, it's always signs. It's always signs to show you what this person's about, male or female. It's always signs. You're going to get something. That God is going to reveal something to you about that person, and it's up to you to realize, hey, I can't do this. You know what I'm saying? I hated the fact that he was intimate with her and knew that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like that whole you need to test the car theory. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, you in essence, you did it right because you got married before you did it, in essence, but you knew like she wasn't for, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of knew it. And I think he was wrong for that. But I just always felt like it's the wolf in sheep's clothing mentality, man. And I'm still shocked that it's guys out there that's doing that. Like, I always thought those type of guys was gone and like, yo, you know what? I'm not doing the church thing no more. I'm just gonna do me. You know what I mean? I'll be spiritual. But the fact that guys in the church still act like this is like, man, that's getting played. But go ahead.
What you got, Jermaine?
Yeah, I was going to say what really sticks out to me, like a warning sign to women when it comes to dudes like this, is don't fall for the Christianese. Don't fall for the dude that knows all the right things to say when his heart is really hardened. And by hardened heart, put it like this. Everything that we heard him say, it was all about what she can bring to benefit him as opposed to what he can offer her. And a lot of times we want, just like anybody, we want the flashy toy. We want the person that is sought after and who is attractive and who has status within the church. And what that does is it kind of serves as a blind spot or a shield to mask what's really going on in someone's heart, because you can't see past it because you see all the shiny stuff. You ever look at the sun or look at a bright light, it'll blind you for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And you can start tripping over stuff and things like that. And I think that that's what happens oftentimes in these cases. Now, unfortunately, the church is littered with people like this who are hedonistic. It's all about them, and who are narcissistic, where it's all about feed my ego, make me feel good, forget about, how I make you feel. I'm not even worried about that. I don't even know if that's secondary. That may not even be on the plate, but as far as, they're thinking, but I think he's problematic for sure. And people who have that mindset, but as far as those prerequisites to marriage, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that per se. When it gets toxic, I think that's when it gets, problematic.
Yeah, so a couple more things to know about him. He was engaged a couple months before the start of this, and he had been engaged even before that. So he's I'll say this. As far as what to look out for, he says a lot of prideful things, and the people that hear him say the prideful things laugh it off, but he's not joking. Like, he's like, he was talking, there was a scene where he's talking to his pastor, and he was like, yeah, on paper, man, I'm everything. He has a story where he said in the clip that I made, that he was ordained, but he left that because he wasn't making enough money. So he went and he was homeless in South Florida for a couple months until he got a job opportunity. And now he owns like restaurants and stuff like that. So he feels like he made it. And the way he's talking to his pastor, he was like, on paper, I'm great. Like I went from nothing to something. And he's talking about himself in such a grandiose way. And I'm like, most people say that in jest, I'm on paper, I'm saying. No, he was dead serious. and he does that in front of her, and she laughs it off. But it's like, no. He really believes, he's narcissistic. He believes that about himself. So those are some signs when somebody has this pride, like, oh, there's something so special about them, and some of that is purpose. But if somebody has a godly purpose, it shouldn't be about them.
Yeah.
It's not because of you that this thing is going to be amazing. It's because of God. And I'm not hearing that with him that often. He says the right words at times, but he's so money focused. He's so success focused. When you start seeing those things, that's not what we're talking about when we say find a godly man. Yeah. So if you're looking for a godly man, those are serious red flags. If you see pride, you see success, money driven drive. And he does stuff that's like, he's not deal breakers all in of himself, like cursing, drinking, but he doesn't do anything that would make me think he's a Christian. He just says things that make me think he's a Christian. You see what I'm saying?
That Christianese, saying all the right things and doing all the wrong.
And I would say too, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Like, for real, because nobody is perfect. Like, nobody is perfect. So if there aren't any type of like flaws in this diamond of a person that you're seeing, and in most cases, the person should freely profess them, and show them and share them instead of like trying to like cover them up and gloss over them. But if it looks too good to be true, something ain't right.
And I'll say this too real quick. From watching him, I know we were talking about wolves and all that. I don't think that he knows that's what he is.
But he is.
I don't think he is intentionally trying to be a wolf. I think he thinks he's a good Christian. I think he, like, the if we saw him walk into a room with a blow up doll in our bachelor party, Jeremiah, we'd be like, what is this dude doing? But in his mind, he's like, I don't want to do this with a real stripper, so I'm gonna bring this thing instead. Like, he thinks he's doing the Christian thing. So I feel like if I talk to him, I don't think he would know that the things he's doing is problematic. Sex before marriage, cursing, getting drunk, putting physical beauty over inner beauty. Like, I don't think he thinks he's doing anything wrong. I think he said in the clip, his family have been pastors, and it's just I think this is behavior that's been passed down to him. And I think he thinks, based on what he's seen, this is acceptable as a Christian.
Wow. Well, I was about to say something about that, like being people's pastors. Like, there's so many people that are in churches that their pastor's not checking them no more. Nobody in the church is checking them because they may be talented or they may be doing something in the church, but they may be hurting your congregation. You know what I mean? Like, they run it through the women in your church, but you're not saying anything because they play an instrument, or they may be a financial giver. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things too, when you have to look into that as well. It's like, yo, what are these pastors saying to these men like that? And then I think another thing too, man, is just one of those things is, it's crazy to me that you would go on that show. You know what I mean? Like, what's the reason to go on that show if you feel that way? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the reason to go on that show if you like, I'm trying to like if you don't know, it's a gamble. Honestly, I've seen the show before and I know the premise of it. It's like, it's a gamble. So if you basically named all these things, and then you see the young lady and you have sex with her, and then afterwards you break it, like, we can't do this no more. It's like, I think deep down you saw it coming down, was like, nah, you know what I mean? But you still went with it because you thought she may be one of those things on your list that you said you wanted, and she may not been that. And you know what I'm saying? And the sad part about all this is, in the reverse of it, it seemed like she was like, I really want to find somebody. I just don't, you know what I mean? She and the way it sounded was like she wanted somebody to have a husband and build something with, and she got intimate with him because they made a commitment and did it the right way. And it's just sad, man. I always say this, man, and it's like, you think that's what you want, but at the same time, man, when you get married, there's fires in situations, and it's real. Like, can you deal with certain financial fires? Can you deal with some stuff that you think that you getting in a marriage, but you're not. You not get what you think you want. You get what I mean? And it's not even about that. It's a man, because first off, the show is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's purpose to marriage. Just to get married because you want to have sex, or get married because you can't find a person. It's purpose to marriage. And I think one thing I don't like about that show is like you're playing with purpose. You are purpose. Is two people get together because it's a purpose that you and that person and God needs you to do.
They're taking God out the marriage. God is completely like they're just doing the stuff on paper. Yeah, like, you know, they could have just may as well just go to the courthouse if they're gonna do that. There's no covenant at all. In my opinion, I ain't mean to cut you off, man.
No, you good. You good.
One of the things that I think he perfectly learned how to or knew how to finesse the show. Like he finessed the show straight up. Like he knew good and well. Because listen, here's the thing. He's so tightly wound, and his prerequisites to having a spouse are so tight, or it's like, you know, they're really tight to where you're like, bruh, that's what you want. Just go find it. Just go find some random. I mean, if someone that'll be submissive, someone will fit that mold, but you actually went the complete opposite and said, no, I'm gonna just do this blind stuff and then hope that I find someone that fits the mold, as opposed to kind of filtering out yourself on your own, with, you know, independent of the show. You see what I'm saying?
You said, but like, finesse them, but for what?
Yeah, well, he finesses so he can get exposure. I think he did it for exposure.
Okay.
Yeah, so he could get exposure. So they ain't you the dude from the show? Nah, you know what I'm saying? I think
so now you can get more women.
Yes. So there's a I think there's a duplicity. He struggles with duplicity, double-mindedness. And part of that may have been fed to him because you know what's really bad in the church is nepotism. And you mentioned how he comes from pastors, and he may have seen abuse in the previous generation, womanizing in the previous generation, or people who acquiesce to their agenda as opposed to a God agenda. And so, you know, that's what I really get out of it. There was something else I was going to say about that, but it just really is a sad situation.
So my wife was asking, to the men, if you see Christian players in your church that are your friends, do you talk to them about it?
I'll say this, yay and nay. And the reason I say yay and nay is because if I'm a true friend of you, you're gonna and I see something, I can ask you a question about it. But I'm saying this from experience, I know people would be like, I'm not going to talk to you about that, or, you know, change the subject, or just like, you don't say nothing, but they feel conviction because of who you are. I've dealt with that in my life, where it's dudes I'm roommates with, or like, hey man, you know, I can't do that while you in the house, or you know what I'm saying? Like, just your conviction, you living right is convicting to them. But I will say that was a missed opportunity on my part, because I didn't say anything, because either I was scared or I was like, I don't know how he's going to take it. You know what I'm saying? But I think at the same time, being a standard of living was something that convicted people when I was around certain people. I know, and not saying I'm high and mighty, but just I knew that me living a straight and narrow type of life was kind of like, oh snap, you know what I mean? Or man, I can't do this around him, you know what I mean? So, but I just speak from my experience.
Yeah, I could say for me, yeah, I would speak up if it was like one of my homies that did this. I think the biggest factor is having relationship and rapport with someone. If you don't really build with them and you don't have a relationship with them, then honestly, you speaking to them or trying to correct them in love, you know, it may not hold any weight at all. So if you don't have that relationship with them, then they probably just gonna be like, yeah, whatever. So for instance, you know, we had some situations, you know, where people were practicing polygamy. And, you know, I was like, okay, should I say something or whatever? But I didn't have that relationship with that person to kind of go to them and like, yo, this is wrong. But had I got that opportunity, if they would have came to me like, you know, is there something that I would have said, I would have been 100 with them, like, yeah, bro, like that, like you are what you're
Now, I have
doing
a
is
question.
wrong.
I have a question, and this is for Maya and any
I
of the
was-
women in
yeah,
the conversation.
go ahead, 'cause
Do
I
you
was
do the
gonna flip it.
opposite? Do
Yeah,
you
I-
tell your girlfriend that is enamored with this guy that everybody in the church know is like kind of wilding? Do you tell her like, hey, you may not want to talk to that dude?
I was gonna flip it, because I mean, people that are close to me, they know, you know, and this is Maya talking, but I'll tell them in a minute, I'm gonna get you a bumper to say, leave that ninja alone. And I'm usually not saying ninja. So literally, I've had those conversations, and I will have them. I will continue to have them again if the relationship is there, because if I see signs, or if I know a brother's track record, or I just know he playing you, I'm gonna tell you.
I'll say this: if you see a lot of guys like this running around that church, check the church. That may be fish rotten from the head. What I notice is when a lot of guys feel comfortable doing that, look at the pastor.
Facts.
They may be seeing something in him that makes them feel like it's okay.
Facts.
So it may not just be him. It may just be a culture problem, because you shouldn't feel comfortable being that type of guy if your leadership aren't those type of guys. You should feel uncomfortable.
That's true.
Yeah.
And when I saw him talking to his pastor, he didn't look uncomfortable.
Yeah. And hearing a brother say, you know, he comes from a long line of pastors, sometimes that scares me, honestly, because there's a culture that can be passed down. There's a behavior that can be passed down.
Yes,
I'm concerned about your encounter. And I ask people this often, like, you know, it's one thing to say you're saved, but did you have a road to Damascus experience where you were transformed personally? I want to know about that, because that's going to tell me whether or not you have a personal relationship versus just carrying the title of being a Christian.
All right, well, check out the show if you want to kind of see where his story leads. From the previews, it looks like it gets a lot worse. So there's a lot more coming with this guy. So pray for him. Pray for him. All right, you in the field with the Trackstarz, Ryan Wright, Tashawn Tanner, DJ Jeremiah.